They ruined the best hole on the course?
These courses are definitely not what I would pick.
That's our biggest complaint about this course. It's definitely off a little bit.
It doesn't take away from what I'm out here trying to do.
What's up, Disgenerates? It's the Disc Golf World. I'm Jefferson, back at the Panera, bringing you the Green Mountain Championships preview. But first, gotta thank everyone on Patreon and our members for supporting the boys. We appreciate each and every one of you. GMC kicks off the dgpt playoffs. What are those exactly? Well, that's a great question that I've been asking for a long time now. Good thing we have Jeff Spring, the president of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, here to break it down.
The top 100 MPO and the top 50 FPO automatically qualify for this. We do backfill, so if a player isn't coming, that's like 80th, and this year there's a lot of Europeans in the top 100. So we have invited down the list a bit, but it's just based on availability. So if the top 100 didn't come, both of these events count. You can't drop them. They're undroppable. They're going to count. Up until this point, it was 10 of 20 DGPT events. So you could drop, if you played 15, you drop 5 worse scores. So we got into this point, and now you tack these two on top of it. So it's really impactful, and that's where we see a lot of people vying for the top 32 and 20, 32 spots for MPO, 20 spots for FPO in the Tour Championship. That Tour Championship is directly influenced by these two playoff events. Players have to keep their scores. They have to be here. In order to get into that top 32, a lot of them have to perform. So it's going to be very interesting to watch that cut line as well as who's going to win these tournaments this weekend.
I'm glad there was an addition of not allowing the points from the next 2 events to be dropped. It gives a sense of importance to these tournaments, which was the biggest critique from last season. Now this stretch presents more sense of urgency from players on the bubble or those that want a better placement for the championship. It's been a long season. Some players and even fans need something to fire them up at the end, and that's the idea behind the Disc Golf postseason.
Comparing the pressure of the Worlds to like the pressure of D-Glow was like, we're just out here throwing frisbees.
Yeah, sure. The pressure's off.
Yeah, it's definitely off a little bit.
I don't think the fact that it's a playoff event has much of a change. Hopefully, it makes me focus a little bit more and sharpens my mental state, and I'm able to lock in and play better than I've played a lot of the events this season. So hopefully that added pressure is working to my advantage. The way the season goes is kind of back-end heavy. These last 2 events, they count no matter what. You don't have any more points fall off.
I think there's 150 points on the line here, and so if you can place well, it'll really do a lot of good for your standings at the end of the year.
This tournament does mean more than most elite events since it is a game on, like, you have to take the points that you get, so you can't have it fall off. So I'm hoping so, but time will tell.
I'm not currently worried about where I position.
My goal is to get that 4th place spot. Nicolas Antela I think he's 50, 60 points ahead of me. So if I play well here, get a podium, take one of these down, then I think I can catch him, but that's kind of all I can hope for, I think.
Pressure might not increase for those with spots locked in for the championship, but what about the others? Eagle McMahon and Ezra Aderhold both find themselves towing the line of the top 32. This is what they had to say about the extra stress.
I know where I'm at in the standings, and it doesn't take away from what I'm out here trying to do. I want to go out there and play to the best of my ability, and if I qualify for the Tour Finals, great. If not, I get an extra off week for the off season. It's all good.
Right now, I'm kind of on the bubble for the Pro Tour Championship, which is it's honestly a little bit embarrassing. Like, I feel like I'm confident that I'm still a top 15 player, and so I feel like I'm a higher skilled player than like half the guys in front of me in points. And so to be where I'm at now it's not what I'm looking for.
Does being on the bubble for the championship or this being a playoff event bring any extra pressure to the end of the season?
Absolutely zero.
Some pros might not feel any extra pressure, but most can agree Smuggler's Notch is a top-tier property. Just hear how they hype up this property.
This is my favorite place on tour.
These courses out here are probably have to say my favorite tour stop of the whole season.
These courses combined are just, I think, 2 of the best courses we play.
I really love playing at these courses. The weather couldn't be more perfect.
1 to 2 weeks later than normal, I knew that we were going to be in for the treat, because looking out at the green mountains of Vermont right now, you can definitely tell they're not so green. It's starting to fall in some reds, some yellows. By the end of the week here, it's going to be a sight to behold.
Both these courses are like in my top 5. They're amazing. I love it because it's like not too much OB, but it's like a fair woods course, and there's not too much woods, and they're both just like my 2 favorite courses.
This course just utilizes all the landscapes they have here in Vermont with, the beautiful courses they got, the wooded course and kind of the open course at Fox Run. So yeah, I think they just complement each other so well, and I think that's why the players love them so much.
It's nice to come back here to know the courses and actually have a game plan. I don't feel like I need to practice here that much. I just need to execute.
Mentally, it's just not as fun. You know, that's the main thing. It's not as fun.
The first thing we should address is how short the courses are. Jeff Spring continues to express that players' ability to hit lines and shape shots will stand the test of time. But there's other pros that frankly think it's boring for the fans to see less exciting shots from the top players in the world. Although it's hard to argue with veterans on tour claiming skills that courses such as these two force, that lots of the new modern age disc golf courses are lacking.
The ethic is really just not about distance. It's more about accurate placement, shot shaping, and that's going to hold the test of time.
These courses are definitely not what I would pick as far as my skill set goes. I want to, you know, throw nukes as hard as I can and get big distance and let the disc actually fly like they're supposed to.
I think I already saw some preview videos saying, are these the shortest courses on tour?
That's our biggest complaint about this course is we don't get to throw distance drivers on any of the tee shots.
Right. Another sub 600 foot par 4 here, but that's just the way this course is. It's a lot of shorter in distance, but accuracy reigns supreme here.
I would love to see some shorter holes with some different shot shapes where you're just shaping putters or mids. That's a lost skill in the game. At least off the tee, it definitely is lost.
They kind of handicap us a lot on these courses. You have to, you know, pick your shots and be very specific with landing zones.
Which seems appropriate. I mean, especially, you know, usually we hear the opposite. This course is too long, asking too much of players. We've heard that recently.
It limits aggression too. I feel like if I was a fan of disc golf, I'd want to see people trying to rip shots and go for eagle and go for these big shots and, you know, let the disc fly. And so when you put trees in the middle of the fairway, like you do on that hole and some of the other holes, it's or even some OBs too. It's like it just makes people want to lay up, and I just feel like that's so much more boring.
The best part about this course duo is that they complement each other extremely well. They force players to utilize most shots in their arsenal, and kicks off the fairway will cause exciting stroke swings. Although similar, each course presents different challenges, but when put together for a 4-round event, it sets up for one of the best tournaments all year.
Both of these courses are very enjoyable, like one of the most enjoyable we have on tour.
Really is two different styles that just pair so nicely together, and I think that's what makes it a huge draw for a lot of players.
Prime disc golf right now. You have the wooded track, a little more finesse, more technical with angles and hitting your lines. And then out at Fox Run, it's more OB, kind of the modern disc golf where you have to just keep it in bounds and create a strong game plan.
The play style of the courses, you know, you have one wooded one, you have one more open with more OB. And so it really tests kind of all aspect of your game.
When you have both of those, I think it creates for one of the best tournaments of the year. Pretty much always see the most well-rounded player win this tournament.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
GMC starts off with Brewster Ridge, which is the wooded of the two courses. Pros will have to focus on hitting gaps and not taking too many strokes when they find themselves off the fairway. Capitalizing on the first stretch of holes is important to score well, as the bonus birdies are more common on the back.
Brewster, it's going out there and just taking what it gives you, but also trying to get a steady pace.
Brewster is just trying to hit the center of the gap.
Interesting part out at Brewster is, you know, with it being tighter lines, you would think maybe you might see some more separation out there, but there's obviously not as much as OB. They did add some on a couple of the holes, which I think is probably a good addition to add a little more separation.
And then I think they added OB on the left side of 10 on Brewster.
OB on 10, yeah, that's the only thing I heard about too. So
yeah.
Pretty much the same course that you guys are familiar with if you ever watched Brewster Ridge in the past.
Some added OB, hole 1 at Brewster, long. Hole 10 at Brewster has OB left now.
Brewster, I feel like I can score really well, but I feel like that's going to have more potential for some colorful scorecards because, you know, if you hit something early, you're scrambling.
Brewster, I do enjoy playing a lot for practice, but for the tournament round, it can get frustrating when you hit a tree and you know, it's a good shot almost, but it kicks. And one new OB spot off to the left of this basket. I don't hate this OB spot if it is OB. Doesn't really change the hole much, but something to think about.
Does a good thing of punishing bad shots.
Right.
I don't think anyone's trying to be over here. I will say these first 6 holes maybe on this course, you really have to capitalize. A lot of times I get into this course and I'm like, oh, you know, I'm 2 down through 6. That's not bad. And it's like, dude, you'd love to be 5 down through 6. It's just that the back 9 is so tough.
It gets a lot tougher, yeah. And with some of the changes they've made recently too, it makes it more difficult. Yeah, back 9 definitely seems to be the more difficult 9, I feel like.
Yeah, of the two. Definitely more bogeys, I think, can happen there. As I said, that there's new added OB down to the left of the basket. I think that that's a good bailout zone for like bad shots.
Right.
And so maybe making OB will help make this a little less luck-based. Hole 10, man, bonus birdie hole here. Distance control is the key on this one.
There's also OB on the left side of this hole now too, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't mind that. I think that really helps with people blasting it. A lot of people don't like OB, roped OB in any case, but I think that this is really well done. They put it in one very specific spot, which is an easy place to hyzer out. And what it does is it makes people off the tee have to think about that and be like, I need my miss to be somewhere other than that. I think OB can actually be used very well for very specific reasons, but the key is to only put it in very specific landing zones.
In terms of artificial and natural, I take a different perspective on how you frame OB and how you talk about OB. For disc golf, you can stand in a creek. In some courses that you play like out of a stream bed, or if it's not surrounded by water. So even marking the top of the bank is artificial. I just look at it as out of bounds. It's not fake. It's real. It's out of bounds.
Probably least favorite shots on the course. The play on the hole that I've had the best success with is just hitting the center gap. I guess one of my least favorite things is most of the people I heard birdied this hole said they went through a gap that wasn't the actual fairway.
Yeah.
Which is never something you want to hear. No real opportunity to throw a distance driver on the whole course. Yeah. That's my biggest critique.
Round 2 and Championship Sunday will be played on Fox Run, the more open style with the addition of OB to increase the difficulty. Plenty of birdie opportunities that need to be taken advantage of.
Fox Run, it's all about scoring. You have to get a lot of birdies, but there's a ton of out of bounds. I've definitely had a couple rounds out here where I just feel like the world's collapsing and a lot can go wrong very quickly.
On Fox, it's if I am going to go OB, let's make sure we're going OB late. We're not going OB immediately and having to get up and down for bogey.
I love Fox. That plays a lot to my strengths.
You got to get the easy birdies. I remember final round of Worlds last year, probably 15 people shot double digits under par. And not much change on the course this year. So we're probably looking very similar scoring conditions.
They have subtle changes, but nothing too crazy. I think that doesn't, a course this well designed doesn't really need to have these major tweaks. And I think that's something that just goes to show you how good the course design was from day one.
The biggest change is probably hole 1 at Fox, where they moved the basket about 40 feet off to the right.
They moved the basket back to the right about 50 feet, you think?
Hole 1 on Fox is moved like 20 feet. So it's not like a severe change, but it's a little enough to make you think about your shot a little bit more, and they got a little bit more out of bounds. So
it's deeper now into the woods.
Really?
It's harder.
They ruined the best hole on the course?
Yeah.
This was like my favorite hole on this property.
Well, it's not your favorite anymore.
Hole 1 at Fox Run did lengthen. That was definitely a much needed change. The course was a little bit easy before, or I guess the hole was a little bit easier before.
I think they tightened up some OB on Fox, specifically hole 7. They brought in the layup zone they kind of want you to go for it.
They tightened the OB a little bit on hole 8 at Fox.
The finish kind of is the challenge out over there on Fox. I think that you can have a good round coming in, and you got to really focus and grind out the finish, because you can let a good round slip away real easily with hole 16 through that tunnel and the out of bounds and stuff. So if you get off the fairway, you can get a bogey, double bogey quick if you're not careful.
For the most part, if you're throwing the shots the way you want to throw them, there's not a whole lot.
There's a couple of minor changes, but I feel like they don't really affect my game plan, so I'm not really thinking about those.
All your scoring and surviving kind of happens out at Fox Run. And so, yeah, I think the key out here to winning is just always being within 3 of the lead. That's always the goal after every round.
It being a 4-round event, there is plenty of time to make up strokes, as the key is to not dig yourself into a hole early. As long as players keep themselves towards the top, there's opportunities to strike.
You almost always come back from a rough round 1 of a tournament, but it helps to not have to push out at Fox Run.
For me, at least, I can be a little less aggressive and just focus a little bit on the long game rather than trying to smoke every shot, make shots that aren't sustainable. It's more just buckling down, shooting for the 1040, 1050 rated rounds and playing the long game and hoping that you get some good kicks that catapult your score into something perhaps pretty special.
The first, second round of the tournament is really a big dictator on how the tournament's going to go for me.
My goal tomorrow is just to put myself in position, maybe have anywhere from a 7 to a 10 under par. And that way I can kind of go into Fox Run with a clear head, not pushing too hard, playing a safe game plan, keeping it in bounds.
There's a reason both of these courses are in the top 10 of the world. And yes, players might be critiquing the course, but damn, you try spending a week in Vermont with nothing but gallons of maple syrup and try staying positive. Seriously though, just because pros give their honest opinion doesn't mean it's complaining. Just trying to get the sport they love to improve. I think Jeff Spring puts it into a good perspective of taking a step back and realizing the greatness we have, but also understanding the recency bias when pros are expressing their feedback.
What I always say is that, let's not be prisoners of the moment. Whatever course we're at, usually there's the criticism related to that course, but in general, the tour is well-rounded. I think this property in general is really well-rounded, which also speaks to it, standing the test of time.
Personally, I'm excited for the Green Mountain Championships and can't wait to see the action go down on both of these beautiful courses. If you can't wait for post coverage to come out, don't worry. Go check out the dynamic duo of the Bean Guy and the Goose Man, currently putting out the best practice rounds in the game if you ask me. But Aaron, let's chill on the camera a bit. If we're going to talk about the best, how can we not address the catch cam Ricky has going on in his videos? Next level. Just like having Fern go all the way in the water for one of the 17 generals Ricky probably bags. Brad could never. However, those flapjacks looking mighty fine. Almost as much as that big germ t-shirt roll. We saw that. Which reminds me, go check out the Backhand Brothers over on Jomez. Or the Sidearm Sisters over on Holland Ella's channel. Can't ever go wrong with the MVP guys. Well, besides the whole throwing gyro thing. Joking, I know you MV peeps are a bit sensitive. But that's all we got at the Disc Golf World. Make sure to subscribe to not miss out on everything you need to know from the Green Mountain Championships. For real, smack that subscribe button if you love disc golf. What are you even waiting for at this point?